Hi you guys and welcome. Today I want to start by telling you a little story. A story about a woman. Let's call her Paula. And Paula grew up in very unforeseen circumstances. She grew up in a small town, and by the age of 20 she already had 3 children. Now Paula was a single mother, and she was raising her babies all on her own. Some days she didn't have enough to feed her babies. Some days she only had enough to feed her babies and not herself. And while Paula was struggling to make ends meet, she knew that what she had was that she was a very hard worker. So in all of the jobs and all of the opportunities that she took on to raise her babies, to raise herself as a woman, despite all of the odds, she was able to put her 3 children to college. Not only that, she was able to be that community leader for everybody in her neighborhood to look up to. Not only that, when her babies went off to college, she was always the one that her family members counted on and called on when they needed help, support, advice. Now, when all of her kids went off to college and pursued their careers, now she was an empty nester. And she finally had the opportunity to start focusing on some of her business endeavors, some of the things that she wanted to pursue. You see, she was very resourceful, and she always found solutions to her problems, which is why it made Paula a very interesting and unique woman who was able to, despite all odds, face enormous amount of resilience, enormous amount of setbacks, and still rose and sent her 3 kids off to school. When it came to herself, though, Paula always criticized herself. She always thought, wow, I could be doing this better. I could be doing this faster. Why is this not where I need it to be? And she had such an eye of critique, a really, really high measure of critique for herself. There was no self-acceptance, there was no self-love, and she was constantly doing for other people. She never wanted to take a break. In fact, in her entire life, this was the very, very first time that she could potentially take a break because she had worked so hard in the years before that. In Paula's case, what she was lacking was self-compassion. Self-compassion because there were constant thoughts in her head that, oh, I should be here. I'm at this point in my life where I should be here. I'm at this point in my life where things are not going well. And we can all relate to Paola's story. You see, we all have a little bit of Paula in us. Now, if we don't take the time to take breaks, if we don't take the time to take care of ourselves, our bodies will tell us when it's time. Our bodies will show us when it breaks down that it's time to slow down, that it's time to pause, that it's time to appreciate all of the things that our bodies have done for us, and to actually have self-compassion. You see, Paula, she always wanted the best for her kids. She always wanted the best, and she was willing to do whatever it takes to put her needs last and her children's needs first. We can also relate to when we're not being compassionate to ourselves, when we know we have to slow down, when we know we have to take that pause or take that break, and we know we have to be just a little bit more kind and gentle to the experiences that we've already had or the things that we're actually going through or processing, even at this very moment right now. You see, in Paula's case, she had accomplished so much. I mean, she rose from coming from a small town and raising her children as a single mother all on her own, taking odd jobs and doing things that she wasn't really wanting to do, but she had to put food on her table, and then rising to be a self-made woman in all of the experiences that she had, being a community leader, being a leader for her family, being the one that her family reaches out to. Those were all incredible accomplishments. And now she's ready. She's ready to take on the world. She's ready to share those gifts with others if she just focuses on herself and being just a little bit more gentle, just a little bit more kind, just a little bit more appreciative of all of the things that she had gone through in the past to where she is today. So like Paola, sometimes we don't want to stop. And we don't stop until our body forces us to stop. Our body forces us to take that break. I want to remind you that some days you might not feel like pushing. You might not feel 100%. You might not feel like you want to fake it till you make it. And I want you to know that that is absolutely okay. And some days you're going to feel so courageous, so brave, so phenomenal, so fearless, so unapologetic that you've got the world in your hands. You see, there are two contrasting sides of the coin, and they are both so beautiful and they are both so needed, because sometimes we need to pause in order to push. Sometimes we need to hold ourselves back in order to see the end of our edges and what actually lies beneath that edge. But we only know this when we actually can take those pauses, when we actually can be grateful for where we are, even at this moment where you might just be feeling lazy or unaccomplished, or that you haven't done anything, that you might even feel that you're not exactly where you need to be as of right now. And I want to remind you that you are exactly where you need to be right now. If you're watching this video, this is exactly the video that you need to be listening to right now, to remind you of how powerful that you are, to remind you how amazing you are, to remind you that this day, this week, this period, this funk that you're going through, this is all to put things in perspective. This is all to remind you, like Paola, where you have been so that you can know where you want to go. So, my loves, kindness begins with you first. Kindness begins with your awareness. Kindness begins with knowing where you've come from, what you've been doing, and how you show up to your community. So let this be that reminder today. Have that compassion for yourself first, before you give it to your children, before you give it to your spouse or your loved ones, before you give it to the community or the people that you serve. Have that compassion for you. Have that ability and that permission to give yourself a break, to give yourself a pause, so that you can be relentless, so you can be unapologetic when you are ready. Thank you guys so much for watching and so much for tuning in. If you love this video or you know that somebody could benefit from it, as always, please feel free to share, comment, like this video, and go ahead and hit subscribe, because you know we drop these gems weekly. Mwah.